Old School RuneScape, the medieval point-and-click game we've all loved for 20 plus years. Since day one, Jagex has never taken itself too seriously. If you look closely, Gielinor is absolutely littered with references. Pop culture, TV shows, films, games, even real-life celebrities. These shout-outs sneak in everywhere. Locations, songs,
It's Hell's Bell, AC/DC. Can't it be about AC/DC, man?
combat achievements, quests, dialogues. There's so many that there's no way I can cover them all in one video. But today, I'll show you a bunch. Ones I've stumbled across in-game, and a few I dug out in the deep depths of the wiki. Let's ease into it with a more well-known example. Inside the Varrock Church, you'll spot Top Gear's and Diddley Scott Farms' very own Jeremy Clarkson, known here as Jeremy Clarkson, the old Top Gear host, now farmer.
It's got me in the testes. Whoa!
And then, for no reason I could fathom,
No, don't do that. Oh, shit and bolly.
Has decided to take a day off, and in true Clarkson fashion, is asleep in church. Clearly Father Lawrence isn't much of a preacher, because Clarkson's not the only one nodding off. 2 rows ahead, you'll see Martina Scoresby, a play on legendary director Martin Scorsese. You know, Goodfellas, Taxi Driver, The Wolf of Wall Street, absolute cinema. Some of these films even get referenced elsewhere in Gielinor, so stick around and you might spot a few. For now though, Martina's already gone. Next stop, Land's End, the place you never go. This tiny village, if you can even call it that, has a population of 3. One of them is a dwarf named Hugor. This is the alias Tyrion Lannister uses in the 5th A Song of Ice and Fire book. That's Game of Thrones for those that don't know. And in true Tyrion fashion, Hugor is drunk out of his mind. He's even holding a glass of wine. He's best in slot. When you talk to him, he repeats himself with a question, "Know where horses go?" He's not talking about horses. Oh, and right nearby, there's a crossbow spawn. And we all know what Tyrion does with one of those. No spoilers. But Land's End isn't done yet. On the hill, you'll find an artist. Not just any artist. It's Twitch icon and America's favourite painter, Bob Ross. Or as Gielinor knows him, Robert Boss. Afro and all, painting these happy little trees. Look at this masterpiece. He also quotes all of Bob's famous lines.
I think everybody needs a friend, so we're going to give him one right here. We don't make mistakes. We have happy accidents. Shoot, this is your world. Do anything you want to do in here.
And speaking of Rosses, Bob isn't the only one with a cameo. Down by the docks of Port Piscarius, you'll find Ross and Ben, a quiet nod to Ross Geller.
Pivot! Pivot! Pivot!
And his kid Ben from the iconic 90s sitcom, Friends. RuneScape doesn't bother with dinosaurs or divorces here,
Second in 2 years. Third overall.
but at least Ben finally gets some father-son bonding time on a dock in Gielinor. Sticking with sitcoms, Sleep has a pub called the Rat and Bat. Inside here you'll find 3 very familiar regulars, Yemrab, Erodoret, and Lashram. Flip those names around and you've got Barney, Theodore and Marshall from How I Met Your Mother. They're just hanging out, pint in hand, like it's any other night in McLaren's pub. But in this case, the Rat and Bat. And of course, who else is running the place but Carl the barkeep, just like in the show. Even their examine texts are on theme. Ted insists on teaching you how to pronounce his name slowly, like encyclopedia.
Oh, you think it should be pronounced encyclopedia?
Marshall's is he has judgmental eyes. And Barney is of course plain and simple, a businessman. That man loves a suit.
And suit up!
And over in Falador Castle, you'll find a scribe. Not just any scribe, a subscribe. So if you haven't already, feel free to hit the subscribe button. I make similar content to this video. My last 2 videos were on obscure RuneLite plugins nobody installs, so feel free to check them out afterwards. Now if we shoot off to everyone's favourite basement in the Warriors Guild, sorry Evil Dave, you'll have to settle for 2nd place in your mum's basement. Down here you'll find a woman named Lorelei with her pet cyclops, Rory. That's a nod to American sitcom Gilmore Girls, where the 2 main characters are, you guessed it, Lorelei and her daughter Rory Gilmore. The Gilmore Girls. Admittedly, the show was all about coffee binges in Luke's diner.
Every morning for you was a coffee morning.
And the small town drama in Stars Hollow, hashtag Team Jess, not a woman hanging out in a basement with a one-eyed monster. But hey, Jagex got the names right. Of course it's not all sitcoms. Gielinor is jam-packed with film references too. And Star Wars gets plenty of love. One of my favourites is in the Hallowed Sepulchre, where you might spot a character named Cassian. That's a nod to Cassian Andor from the Disney Plus series Andor and the film Rogue One. And if that wasn't enough, there's also Cassian's Rogue One crewmate, Jyn Erso, darting around the Sepulchre floors. Meanwhile, up in Relica, you'll find Lokar Searunner, clearly a play on original Star Wars protagonist Luke Skywalker. And honestly, the resemblance is uncanny. Blonde hair, a certain farm boy vibe, and of course, the missing hand. Jagex don't even try to hide that one. Speaking of explorers, but this time with fewer lasers and more fedoras, Gielinor hides 3 Indiana Jones scout-outs around Gielinor. That's Orlando Smith, Louisiana Jones, and Asgarnia Smith. Do you see the pattern? The first name is a place, the surname is a perfectly ordinary British name, and each one is an explorer. Let's hope they find the Ark soon. Sailing away from the space wizards and treasure hunters, let's dock in Port Sarim. where there are a couple nods to Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl. Inside the Rusty Anchor Inn, you'll find Jack Seagull. And no, I don't think I need to spell out who that's based on. Right next to him is Longbow Ben, who claims he was once marooned on an island with nothing but a bow and a single arrow. Pretty on the nose considering Captain Jack Sparrow himself was left on an island with a pistol and a single shot.
Last time you left me a pistol with one shot.
From one swashbuckler to another, we trade rum for sand and swords. Over at the Colosseum in Valamor, there's Minimus, a dwarf gladiator whose name is obviously a play on Maximus from Gladiator. Small in stature, big in spirit, and likely to yell,
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
before dramatically cleaving through a goblin or two. A tiny nod to Gladiator for anyone who appreciates dwarves with an overdeveloped sense of drama. Leaving the Colosseum behind, it's time to meet a hero of a different sort, outside the Grand Exchange. Here you'll meet James, a tutor who teaches players all about membership bonds. Suave in his suit, calm under pressure, and with his exam in text, the master of all bonds, it's pretty obvious who inspired him. Gillinor's very own 007. A bit more focused on tutorials and international espionage. However, he still takes his wizard blizzard, shaken, not stirred. Moving on from spies, Gillinor has a surprisingly recurring theme, and that's gangsters. For a medieval fantasy world, it seems the mob life is alive and well. If you head into the wilderness, you'll meet Fat Tony. By day, he's a humble chef specialising in pizza bases. By reputation, he's also the mob boss from The Simpsons. And for the most obvious gangster shoutouts, we go to Xanaris, clearly the underbelly of Gillinor. Here resides the fairy godfather in his tuxedo, flanked by his loyal henchman, Fat Rocco, clear nods to the godfather, and nearby is Slim Louie, whose exam in text directly channels Tommy DeVito from Goodfellas.
I mean, funny like I'm a clown, I amuse you.
Classic mobster menace. I wouldn't want to mess with him, and I think that's fair enough. So far we've met spies, gladiators, gangsters, but Gillinor's nods to pop culture aren't just in its people. Some of its locations are inspired by films, games and TV shows too. Deep in the wilderness lies a fiery volcano that looks an awful lot like Mount Doom. Interact with the fiery pits by using a gold ring on the chasm and a goblin suddenly appears, shouting, clearly a nod to Gollum from the Lord of the Rings. Over on the Giant's Plateau, there's a big hill with a wooden platform at the top, and multiple hay bales at the base. For anyone who's played Assassin's Creed, the setup is instantly familiar. Leap of faith, anyone? In Gardens of Rift, you'll spot the houses of Bikini Bottom's main residents, SpongeBob, Squidward and Patrick. Yes, Jagex even makes time for undersea shenanigans. And just off Fossil Island, there's a tiny deserted island that houses Wilson from Castaway. Apparently being stranded alone in Gillinor is still a career choice. Heading northwest of Prifddinas takes us to this area here. Not gonna lie, I don't think I've ever stepped foot here before filming this. The locals call it Mynydd, which is just a Welsh word for mountain. Very creative. But what Mynydd lacks in name and originality, it makes up for in Game of Thrones references. Along the trail you'll come across 6 direwolves, mirroring the ones given to the Stark children, and of course, Jon Snow. The biggest of the bunch is now Beano, clearly meant to be Ghost. Keep climbing, and at the peak you'll stumble across the Iron Throne, though sadly, in ruins. Behind it are 3 dragon eggs, casually lying around, a nod to the mother of dragons herself, Daenerys Targaryen. I'll throw in one last Game of Thrones nod whilst we're here. If you're lucky enough to snag a pet at the Royal Titans, you'll notice they're named Bran and Rick, clearly playing on the Stark boys, Bran and Rickon. One's a fire giant, the other's an ice giant. Song of Ice and Fire? The reference has layers, many layers. But the Titan pets aren't the only ones to be a reference. The skilling boss, Temperos, drops a pet named Tiny Tempor, a wink to British rapper Tiny Temper, proof that Jagex really never drops the ball. And music references don't stop there. You've got AC/DC's Hell's Bells as a track, Muse frontman Matt Bellamy, reimagined as someone's pet bat named Bat Melamy, and soul legend Shaka Khan, reborn as a massive jungle lion called the Shaka Khan.
Chaka Khan, Chaka Khan, Chaka Khan, Chaka Khan, Shaka Khan, let me rock Shaka Khan.
And then there's Kylie Minogue, or in Gillinor, Kylie Minogue, at the Fishing Guild. She just can't get you out of her head. And yes, even her exam in text says so. Similar to Kylie, Fish Runner 82 on the 3rd floor of the Hallow Sepulchre is struggling to get the arrow out of his knee. A clear reference to the video game Skyrim, where a god used to be an adventurer like you until he took an arrow to the knee.
I used to be an adventurer like you. Then I took an arrow in the knee.
He's not the only game reference either. There's a couple of Zelda references. You can find Link's hat in the Stronghold of Security. Hopefully that's not his body also. Dampé the Gravedigger, who hands out coffins by the entrance of Shades of Morton, is also a reference to the Gravedigger Dampé from the Zelda games. He's a creepy old man. Mario also sneaks in with lookalikes in the Motherlode mine, whose examine texts reveal their true passions: saving princesses and eating mushrooms. Classic Italian plumber diet. And it's not just video games. RuneScape even tips its hat to game shows. The Quizmaster random event mashes up 2 at once. Set in the Mastermind studio, but using the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire question interface. Genius. It's like one of board games so you can play chess and drafts in the same game. Crazy. You can also find Bob Barker.
I'm Bob Barker.
The American Price is Right host.
Now here's the star of The Price is Right, Bob Barker.
At the GE under the name Bob Barter, giving you the street price on some herbs. Then our last game show host is the old British game show, The Crystal Maze. Amazing show. Host Richard O'Brien, absolute
Hello.
icon.
Richard O'Brien here, your genial guide to the Crystal Maze. Welcome.
You can find him at everyone's favourite underground location, the Rogue's Den. There's even some references relating to the Iron Man game mode. Of course, the mode itself was inspired by Boaty's One Man Army series, and Jagex immortalised him in Lumbridge as Adam, his IRL name. On Tutorial Island, you'll also meet the Iron Man tutor Paul. A shout out to big Iron Man streamer, Foe.
Oh, whoa, whoa, yo! I got it! Yo!
Even the group Iron Man tutors get in on the fun. On the node, the group storage tutor is named Maggie, a reference to former British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, who was often referred to as the Iron Lady. Then close by on the node is a group Iron Man tutor called Tony. Tony happens to also be the name of Tony Stark, you know, Iron Man. Honestly, there are so many references scattered around RuneScape. Prospector Pete at the Motherlode Mine is basically Stinky Pete from Toy Story 2. And Da Vinci hanging around Remington? Clearly a nod to the free editing software I'm using to make this very video. I've barely scratched the surface here, so if you know of any other good ones I missed, drop them in the comments and I'd love to check them out. Oh, and if you fancy hitting that subscribe button whilst you're there, that'd be brilliant. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.